Hi, welcome to day 2. I'm Bookstahuda of the Great Books I Read in University series. So we're going from Middle English to the present today. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's. If you missed it, you can find it on my YouTube channel. Today we'll be talking about the books that are post-Middle English, so Shakespeare and forward, that I thought were worth reading during university. Hope you enjoy! In the same class that we read Troilus and Cressida, we read Shakespeare's adaptation of Chaucer's version, Troilus and Cressida. This is the Royal Shakespeare Company edition. I really like these editions. I'd love to have all the plays in this edition eventually. It's just, the print is really nice, the text is nice, the story's good. As I was writing my paper, 2 books in tandem, I was comparing how Shakespeare adapted a certain scene out of this one. I was listening to NSYNC's old hits, and NSYNC's album No Strings Attached is kind of a soundtrack for the Troilus and Cressida and Diomedes. It's kind of their love story all together, so I recommend checking that out. Next, moving into the Romantic period, we've got Frankenstein, the 1818 edition by Mary Shelley. I think this is the only version of the 1818 edition you can get, which is great because Nortons are great, and I love Nortons. I want them all. I want to collect them all. Nortons are my Pokemon. I can't recommend this book enough. I think it's my ultimate favorite book ever. Still in Norton territory, Wuthering Heights, my second favorite book ever. I love it. It's great. What else can I say? Frame narratives in both of those. Frame narratives are cool. Jane Eyre, I've read this 2.5 times because I couldn't get through it a third time fast enough for the class that I was in. But Jane Eyre is just, it's Jane Eyre. Watch a movie, read the book. Read some feminist criticism of it, and then read a book that will show up later. Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Aurora Leigh and Other Poems. Aurora Leigh is, I think, the main one we read. The main male character is an unbelievably pious creature, and my grad school friend Erin and I decided that the only way that it made sense that he was a real person, or that he could be a real person, was to read him as Tom Hiddleston. So that's what I recommend. Read all of his lines in Tom Hiddleston's voice in your head. Yes, that's a skill that I have. I can do that easily with anything. Anytime you're just hating whatever you're reading, read it in Tom Hiddleston's voice. It'll be way better. Or Alan Rickman's, or Scarlett Johansson, or whatever. This love story is really beautiful. It's a great poem. It's a long poem. How long is it? It's in books. It's 308 pages. So it's a pretty long poem, but it's good. This is The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. I read this in an American literature class, the first one I took. And I didn't enjoy the way this was taught, but I had read it already because of an episode of Gossip Girl where Dan and Blair and maybe Serena are in a play of this, and I was like, I want to read that. And I read it because I was really into Gossip Girl. But it's a great book. I've read it twice, and I liked it more the second time because I got it more, but it wasn't because of the professor, it was just because I'd already read it and I had matured as a reader, so. Next, T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. This one is just weird, but it's really beautiful. I didn't really like it when I read it, but I liked it when I watched the lady who plays Aunt Petunia in Harry Potter, whose name I will put here, read it. She performs it, and it brings it to life, and it's really good. And I recommend you looking it up on YouTube or wherever. Next, Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. I didn't appreciate it at the time, because I didn't really understand the racial issues going on in it. I was too young, wasn't educated. Bad on me. Bad on the professor for not really explaining to us what was at stake, why this book matters, what is going on in it, why is the protagonist invisible? If my professor talked about it, I didn't understand, and that's bad on the professor for not caring that the students don't get it. I mean, it's also bad on me for not being like, I don't get it, but it's also really intimidating to do when the professor is blabbering on, and you're just the one sitting there going, I don't know what they're talking about. But having been on the other side of the classroom now, I wish I'd been like, I don't understand this book. Why is it relevant? And then maybe the professor would have explained it to me, or a professor's never gonna be like, you're an idiot, get out of my class, unless they're terrible and shouldn't be teaching. So if you don't understand something, ask. If you're too afraid to do it in the middle of a class, go up to the professor after class and ask them. They will be so excited that you care. I know, because I've been there. The book that you should read after reading Jane Eyre and after reading a little bit of feminist criticism is White Sargasso Sea by Jane Reese. I read this in a post-colonial lit class. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't unsee this as part of the official Jane Eyre canon. I just can't, because it's so good. And it points out what's wrong with Rochester and Jane, which makes me a little sad because I loved them before and now it's really hard to do that. But, you know, I think the girls of Which Please say our faves can be problematic and we can still love them, but, you know, we have to address what's problematic in them. I sound so pretentious, but it's true. Next is Beloved by Toni Morrison. This book is so powerful. It might be the most powerful thing I read in grad school. I can't recommend this book enough. It's so powerful. Like, just read it. This I only read an excerpt of, but it's one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm gonna tell you again. It's Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird, Instructions on Writing and Life. If you are an aspiring writer, this book. If you just like reading funny things, this book. I've read this book in 2 separate classes, and it took me both of those classes to finish it. If you've been around here in a while, you know it's White Smith by Zadie Teeth. No, White Teeth by Zadie Smith. This book is fantastic. I'm sure I'll read it again someday, maybe when I'm a little older and I know a little bit more about history. It's astounding that Zadie Smith wrote this when she was like 21, I think. It's so good. Read it. Next, also Zadie Smith on beauty. This is not near, like, I don't think it's as good as White Teeth. Not much is, honestly. It's just, it was enjoyable as a book. The way that we studied it wasn't the best, but it was a really beautiful story and it was really powerful, and I doubt it gets taught all that much, but I'm glad that I was forced to read it because I otherwise wouldn't have, and I'm really glad that I read it. And lastly, it's Margaret Atwood's Oryx and Crake. We read this in an American fiction class, which is kind of cheating, and the professor knew that because Margaret Atwood is Canadian. This is a fantastic book. It's the first in the Mad Adam trilogy. I haven't read the other 2, although I have them. I want to reread this book again. I started it a while ago and got apparently to page 40. Didn't get very far, but this book is so powerful and so beautiful and so disgusting and so great. If you love Final Fantasy VII, read this book, because the main characters remind me very much of Cloud and Sephiroth and Eris. And it's so good. It's so good. And I've taken this book all over the world, and look at what shape it's in. It's still, the corners are still sharp, which is a very good thing for paperback to be able to retain itself. So well done, Anchor Books. Well done. Okay, after 25 minutes of jammering, you've reached the end of this video. If you've stuck around, thank you. I'm gonna have another video up for you tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around, and books to Huda. About these